Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. We'll call the special board meeting for Wednesday, December 11th, 2024 to order at 4 p.m. Roll call, please, Ms. Olson.
Director Bankus? Here. Director Carey?
Here.
Director Hafley?
Here.
Director Jorgensen?
Here.
Director Malpacum?
Here.
Director Nelson?
Here.
Director Ott?
Here.
We have all 7 board members in attendance in person in the boardroom. So before we get into the agenda for tonight, we do have a packed boardroom. We also have media present at the back of the boardroom and possibly several people waiting outside or in the overflow room back there. I know that there are a lot of emotions and sentiments based on the topic on today's agenda, and that's totally understandable. But it's my responsibility to ensure efficient and effective conduct of board business. With that in mind, there are clear norms and expectations that everyone on this dais and in the audience are expected to follow so we can have professional decorum in the boardroom. Simple rule is to demonstrate courtesy and respect to each other, especially when someone has been recognized and is speaking up there at the podium. You may disagree or agree with the views expressed, but the democratic process is rooted in civil and courteous discourse and behavior. And anything that disrupts the professional decorum in the boardroom will not be tolerated. With that, thank you. We'll move on to today's agenda. And please join me as we observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Adoption of the agenda. Director Jorgensen, can you please make the motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
Yes, I move that the Board of Education adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Director Bankus? Aye. Director Carey?
Aye.
Director Hafley?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The agenda has been adopted. We do have the Pledge of Allegiance, and Security Officer Frank Vasquez, please approach the podium here and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Officer Vasquez. Okay, we do have public comments, and the last time I checked with Ms. Olson, we have several public comments. As a reminder, going over the board protocol for public comments, the board welcomes and is very interested in listening to comments. Please approach the podium when your name is called. You have 3 minutes to deliver your remarks, so please monitor the clock that is on display and complete your comments in that allotted time. Board meetings are primarily business meetings for the orderly and efficient conduct of the business of the district. Keeping that in mind, the clear expectation is that your feedback is provided in a civil, professional, and courteous manner without resorting to disparaging or defamatory remarks. Students are often in attendance or watching our broadcast. Speakers' remarks, therefore, should be suitable for an audience that include minor students, including no use of profanities or obscenities. To adhere to the board policy and accomplish the work already on the agenda, the board will not respond to comments during this time, but I can assure you that your comments will be taken into consideration as we discuss agenda items. To maintain the flow of the meeting and not have prolonged interruptions, please refrain from clapping. If you want to show support or solidarity to a speaker, please stand as the speaker is talking or use a silent applause. Lastly, the statements made by the public do not reflect the views of the board or the district. We usually have 60 minutes for our comments. I know that we have several comments out here. We will see what we can do to get through these today. With that, the first comment, Maria Bergman, Miss Maria Bergman. Miss, okay. Thank you. Introduce yourself, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Board. My name is Maria Bergman, and I'm a D11 resident. I'm here tonight to ask that you end the master agreement with the local affiliate of the National Education Association, CSEA. Tonight, you have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to free our school district from the unaccountable grip of a far-left special interest group. D11's master agreement contractually demands that the union have shared decision-making power in the school district. The master agreement creates an unequal business partnership between D11 and the CSEA, giving the union the controlling interest in the affairs and decisions of the district. And what is your business partner doing outside the district? The Washington Examiner reports that last year, the NEA spent more dues money on partisan politics than it did representing its own members. Here in Colorado Springs, NEA affiliates spend hundreds of thousands of dollars campaigning against many of you. Sounds like a bad business partner. This agreement isn't about protecting teachers, and it definitely isn't about what's best for kids. It's about union bosses retaining their grip on you and on public education. Make no mistake, this contract has nothing to do with teacher salaries or benefits. No other school district in El Paso County has a master agreement, and yet, until this school board came along, D11 had some of the most underpaid teachers in the region. The master agreement prevents the district from paying more for harder to fill positions and creates a cap on salaries as well. You have spent the past 3 years significantly improving School District 11. Tonight, if you end the master agreement, you will prove that there is nothing you are unwilling to do to put kids, teachers, and parents first in this district. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jacqueline Roberson.
Good evening, board directors, President Malpacum. My name is Jacqueline Roberson. I'm a D11 taxpayer, parent, teacher at Palmer High School, every day, all day. I'm the vice president of CSEA, so I guess, yes, I am a union boss. But again, I'm every day, all day in Palmer High School working with kids that matter more than anything to me. The master agreement involves things like protecting teacher plan time, for example, and creating a framework around PLCs. This way, when things become muddy and plan time is taken for PD or PLC, we can address the issue together and collaboratively in joint council or within our buildings come to a solution so that we are able to do what's best for our kids. I want to make sure that teachers have the time they need to best serve their students with constructive feedback and rigorous lessons. I want to make sure that teachers feel heard and that teachers have this opportunity to provide a voice to leadership. This is just one of many things that matter to teachers and impact students that would likely be forgotten from a top-down approach should the master agreement not be renewed. I volunteer my spare time for this work to be a union boss. I work hard in my job. As a matter of fact, as a 20-year career teacher, I continuously strive for new opportunities. Just last year, I began developing a patient care technician course new to the district. I am certifying students to be nursing assistants, phlebotomy techs, and EKG technicians. I also teach an IB sports exercise and health science course, medical explorations, human nutrition, and freshman bio. I work very hard, and I want to be respected with the rights that we have bargained for in the master agreement. I love the experiences that my own children have had with their D11 schools, and I ask that the board view my children and all students as more than just a test score. I also ask that their teachers have the rights that they need and deserve as professionals. As a taxpayer and a parent, I truly believe that the work that I do is for my children too. I want my children's teachers who are here in the overflow room right now, watching on screen, grading papers at home, to maintain their workplace rights through the continuation of the master agreement. The union is our teachers. This is not a separate organization. We are here doing the work in the classroom, and we are asking to be heard regarding the needs of our students through IBB. And I would like to add that the base salary was raised in the entire El Paso County region because of our bargaining in D11. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Valerie Buffa. Valerie Buffa. Okay. Buffa, I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Val Buffa, and I'm a fourth-generation educator with over 30 years' experience across the United States. For my family, teaching is so much more than a job. It's a calling. It's our community service, our civic duty, our social responsibility, our family legacy. I have seen this same level of devotion in teachers everywhere that I have taught. I see the same depth of dedication in the educators of D11 and the members of CSEA. We are 100% committed to doing whatever it takes to ensure the success of our students. To that end, we rely on our collective bargaining unit and the master agreement to clearly delineate the rules and responsibilities, the procedures and protocols, the structures and systems. Like our country's Constitution, it is a living document reflecting a thoughtfully negotiated concord. Like the constitutional amendments, it can be adapted and revised to remain responsive to changing community needs. Both are designed to promote the general welfare and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our prosperity. By coming together to review and renew the master agreement, we are all modeling for our youth. Will we show them our commitment to a common purpose, to civil discourse, and to seeking common ground? Or will our actions teach them to walk away from commitments that have become difficult? With nearly 50% of first marriages in the US ending in divorce, this is a lesson they already know. Research indicates that children suffer the most when families tear asunder. Our students spend almost equal amounts of time at school and at home. They have forged significant, meaningful relationships with their teachers. How much harm will the divorce of D11 and CSEA do to our collective children? Let's work this out. Let's come together in new ways to form new commitments and cooperatively, for the good of our students, our district, and our community, seek accord. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jessica Medina, Jessica.
Thank you. My name is Jessica Medina. I'm a school psychologist in School District 11. I've lived and worked in D11 for over 20 years. I have a child attending a D11 school. I'm a stakeholder in the district, and my working conditions and the school environment of my child and the students and families I serve are protected by the articles set forth in the master agreement. The master agreement and D11 teachers have been politicized and vilified as a left-leaning group working to preserve a document that forwards their own interests, when in reality the master agreement outlines the working conditions for all teachers, those within the district, and those conditions directly impact the learning environment of our students. It feels as though the majority of our school board and interest outside of D11 want to take away those protections and have offered nothing in return. This action does not benefit our staff nor our students. As a D11 parent, I want my child's teachers to have safe and secure working conditions, such as smaller class sizes and manageable caseloads, as well as the time they need to plan and implement the learning activities and lessons that she benefits directly from. As a D11 educator and parent, I support the continuation of D11's master agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jessica Kloppenberg.
Good evening, Superintendent Gall and members of the board. My name is Jessica Kloppenberg. I'm a first grade teacher at Wilson Elementary School. I am here with you today to share with you my journey that brought me to D11. I found my calling at the age of 10 when a teacher helped me through a variety of different challenges in my life. And after graduating from high school and college, I was ready to take my place within the educational system and was looking for a school that would help me support students both academically and socially. After working in 3 different private schools and a public school district in Colorado, I came to Colorado Springs. I came to the city as a burnt out and defeated teacher because my previous schools did not support me emotionally and did not respect me as a professional. I was looking for a new district to call home for the rest of my teaching career. After interviewing in almost every single school district here in Colorado Springs, I came upon a school that I knew in my gut was the place for me. And after looking into D11, I felt the same way. And after a short period of time, I regained my passion for this job that I love so much every day. The reason why is because the obstacles that prevented me from being my best self were gone. I didn't stress about having time to eat or plan engaging lessons that are enriching for all of my students or to collaborate with my fellow educators. I didn't stress because of the master agreement. And after being in the district for a couple of years, I saw a different side. It creates a bridge of collaboration between teachers and the district. It allows teachers to have a voice and allows us to work with the district in order to create the best learning environment for all students. Last week, I was part of a group of teachers who had the opportunity to sit down with 4 of you. This collaboration is needed for our district. And one of those board members stated that they looked forward to future collaborations. But how can this happen when teachers feel disrespected and not heard? Last year, one of you stated the master agreement was preventing D11 from moving forward. But the truth is, the master agreement is one of the reasons that teachers come, stay, and love this district. My initial interview brought me to D11. And the master agreement allows me to do my job and what's best for all of my students every day. It allows me to balance my D11 family and my personal family. I want you to think carefully about the impact that moving forward to dissolve the master agreement would make with our district. By doing so, you're telling teachers, students, parents, and the community that teachers don't matter. How can we put the students first if we put the teachers last? Thank you.
Thank you. Andrew Sandstrom. Mr. Andrew Sandstrom.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Andrew Sandstrom. I'm a D11 community member, and I'm reading this letter on behalf of a teacher named James Kanabi. Please accept my apologies for not being here in person, but I have another meeting that I am attending. My name is James Kanabi, a resident of Colorado Springs and veteran teacher for over 32 years in this area. I have worked for and with D11, D20, and D49 schools. I remember well a time when D11 rivaled those of D20 and Cheyenne Mountain school districts. Many great people have come out of D11 and these other school districts. How many more, though, have slipped through the cracks and been failed by the current system? Has the CSEA helped in collective bargaining and helped to increase teacher wages? Yes. But under their purse strings, for well over the past 20 years, I have seen D11 schools disservicing too many students. As a professional and concerned parent in the Colorado Springs community, I am asking you not to renew the master agreement with the Colorado Springs Education Association. In my teaching career, I've experienced districts that have master agreements and those that don't. The ones that don't are free to innovate, as they are not bound to the will of hyperpolitical organizations like the CSEA, and those school boards are free to govern their districts with the will of their voters and constituents in mind. It is in my professional opinion that D11 has been greatly stifled in the Colorado Springs region because of the master agreement. D11 is held accountable to the union, but has no mechanism by which to hold the union accountable. This even prevents the district from paying teachers more for those harder to fill positions. The results of this half-a-century-old contract are and myself and many in the community are not impressed with the results. It's time for something new. Everyone knows public education works best when school districts are put in the hands of the public and not in the pockets of union bosses. So in short, I ask you, please do not sell your souls and your creative rights to the unions and their money-making schemes. I ask as a concerned citizen that you do not renew this restricting contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Tracy Morey. Tracy Morey. Tracy, yep.
Good afternoon. Don't we live in an amazing place where all children can go to school and learn about the great wide world out there? Public education is one of the greatest enterprises ever undertaken. Again, where all children are welcome. Who does the work? Who makes sure that those children are educated? It's the teachers. I'm one of them. In addition to science, I teach my students the importance of looking at the world with a critical eye while maintaining a sense of empathy. It's a tall order. Our master agreement helps me fill that order. It ensures that I am treated as a professional and given a voice in making decisions. It allows me confidence to try different things in my classroom to better meet my students' needs. If I make a mistake, I can model for my students, how do you own up to that mistake? And how do you rectify it? And I can do that without fear of reprisal. I am fortunate to teach in a building with supportive and amazing admin. Not every teacher in this district has that. I ask you to please extend the MA so that all teachers can feel that support. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Martha Alvarez. Martha Alvarez.
Good afternoon. I'm Martha Alvarez, and I speak tonight as a parent of 2 Palmer High School grads. I am also a Palmer High School teacher, a taxpayer, and a union board member. This is my 30th year of teaching. I first want to address the way we were made to feel so unwelcome this afternoon. Even though we ran here from school as fast as we could, as soon as that bell rang, we had to stand in the foyer with D11 security walking back and forth to make sure that we stayed put. This meeting was called at an hour that prevents attendance from our coaches, our moms and dads of young children, and our second job holders, and so forth. I'm dismayed that an important decision like this is scheduled at a scant 24 hours out. My strengths as a teacher lie in long-term planning. I am a logistics person at heart and wonder frequently about the circle of consideration versus the circle of consequences. Our considerations are so small and the consequences huge. Currently, D11 has the only teacher contract around. Teachers have moved here specifically to work here because of that contract. What does the contract grant us? The right to teach about controversial topics. Evolution being one of my favorites. Notice the dress? This is the only illustration in all of Darwin's Origin of the Species. Another one of the classes I teach is environmental science, and that is such a hopeless topic. And getting our students to learn when the hope is thin is something that is near and dear to my heart. And right now, the hope is thin amongst our teachers. So what really is the issue around the contract? Surely acknowledging the importance of plan time and its amount and frequency cannot be a problem. Academic freedom to create lessons that are age appropriate for our students is surely an expectation of teaching. Knowing that our safety is a concern and that our health benefits are guaranteed and that we have a duty-free lunch is important. Protections from being assaulted should be a given. We expect to collaborate. That's a responsibility and a privilege, and we treat it as such. We collaborate over issues like calendars, school bell schedules, and so forth. D11 is going to face a teacher shortage. Would doing away with a master agreement encourage more teachers to come work for our district? Or does the master agreement allow us to perform our jobs better because we have hope? We have less stress because we know what the rules, the regulations, the expectations are. We know the processes. You see, teachers, like students, do better when the ground rules are known and not changed spur of the moment. Unions are about the dignity of work. Our master agreement allows us to know specifically the rights and responsibilities.
Thank you. Your time is up. Mr. Larry Langston. Larry Langston. Larry Langston. Dr. Rod.
Thank you. I'd like to make a suggestion that since some of our folks are further out, perhaps you could mention the next person who is speaking so they can know they're on deck.
Yep, thank you.
Who's on deck?
James Saylor is on deck. The next one is James Saylor after Larry Langston. Thank you, Director Rod.
My name is Larry Langston. I'm a parent and a grandparent of 2 granddaughters that are in this district. So good evening, members of the school board and superintendent. Who is the customer? And I asked that question out front. Boy, they didn't even give me a drink of water. But my son and his wife and my 2 granddaughters, that's who the customers are. And you guys know who the customers are. Thank you for giving me the opportunity as a D11 community member to speak with you today. I want to address an important topic that many in our community have expressed curiosity about, the master agreement. This document currently governs the operations of our schools, yet is not fully understood by everybody. I mean, it's 123 pages long. First, let's discuss what the master agreement is and how it influences our schools and decision-making processes. It is important to recognize that the master agreement is not created by our elected school board members, the people in front of me right here, who represent our community's wishes because we voted you guys in. It is also not developed by our school superintendent, who sits right there, who manages our district's daily operations. Instead, the master agreement is crafted by an external organization, the teachers union. This document outlines the terms and conditions that affect various aspects of our district, including staffing, pay scales, and working conditions. While we appreciate the intent behind the master agreement to protect our educators, we must consider its implications for our students, their families, the district's governance. And when I was reading this document, you don't mention parents until like page 33 on this document, which I would think would be on page 1. They're the customer. These constraints limit our ability to make decisions that address our needs of our students in this crucial post-pandemic period. When an outside entity like the teachers union exerts a significant influence over our schools, it raises important questions about our community to local governance and our ability to do what is best for our students. If the direction of our district is largely guided by a document not created by or endorsed by our local leaders and not focused on what is best for our students, we must consider what this means for family and community representation in local elections. Are the voices of the parents, students, and the local leaders truly being heard when so much authority is being vested by an external agreement? I don't think so. Matter of fact, my son sends his kids to District 20. I believe this is the time for us to come together and consider how we can foster a more balanced and collaborative approach to moving forward. Our decisions must reflect our values and our needs of our community. In conclusion, this is not about understanding the hard work of our teachers, rather it's about ensuring our local leaders, individuals we elect, have the authority to guide our schools effectively. Thank you for your attention and dedication to our community's future.
Thank you.
2 seconds.
So James Saylor. The next one is Stacy Adair.
Thank you, President Malpacum. I am James Saylor, former 15-year teacher of the German and Japanese languages at Mitchell High School. A teachers' union is not a part of public government. It is a private corporation. Why does this matter? Article 5 of the Master Agreement codifies the transfer of the authority of the citizens from the school board to the Master Agreement. It says, the board retains all rights except to the extent that those rights have been limited by the provisions of this agreement. Article 5 means that the governing principle of D11 is the transfer of authority of the elected school board and the principals of the schools to the Colorado Springs Education Association, which is an unelected private corporation. Every article and line item in the master agreement takes away the authority of school principals to lead the teachers and the parents together, the adults who care the most for their students and who are most closely involved in their students' education. You, the D11 school board, can choose to let the master agreement expire. If you do, after 56 years, you will restore the authority of the citizens of D11 over their public school district. You will restore the authority of the school board to govern, and you will restore the authority of school principals to lead the teachers and the parents together, to give our schools good discipline and positive adulthood. You will take the first and foundational step to reverse the 56-year downhill slide of the achievement of D11 students. All the other school districts in our county don't have a master agreement. Why? 140 of 180 school districts in Colorado don't have a master agreement. Why? because the conscientious members of those school boards choose to be accountable to their citizens and not to a private corporation teachers union. Let this be the day that D11 makes history. Let this be the day that this board returns public education to the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Stacy Adair, and the next one is Kate DeJong. Kate DeJong.
Good evening, members of the board, teachers, parents, and community members. My name is Stacy Adair. I'm a 19-year teacher in D11. There are several hundred non-union teachers. Obviously, I'm not wearing red, so I am a non-union teacher. Recently, I heard that the teachers union claims to represent all teachers. But as I reflect on this claim, several questions come to mind. Does the teachers union truly represent all teachers when it donates thousands of dollars to far-left Democrats in Colorado Springs? How does that align with representing all teachers, regardless of their political views? Does the union represent all teachers when it locks out a non-union teacher's lawyer from an HR meeting? That was my experience. Because of the union's sole representation, as outlined in the master agreement, my lawyer was told he couldn't attend the meeting, leaving me without representation at a critical time. Does the union represent all teachers when only union members are appointed to important district decision-making committees? Does the union represent all teachers when it did nothing for the staff at Mitchell High School after all teachers and staff were fired? Where was the union's support for those educators who were left without a job? Does the union represent all teachers when it spends teachers' dues to participate in the local LGBTQ parade? Are all teachers comfortable with their dues being used in this way, or do some feel this political activity is not representative of their beliefs? Does the union represent all teachers when it makes statements against capitalism? Even Governor Polis, a Democrat, took notice and spoke out against this. Shouldn't the union be focused on issues that deal with education, not pushing political ideologies? Does the union represent all teachers when its top leaders wear badges to school with QR codes linking to explicit sexual material? These badges were given out at the teachers union conference. Is this the kind of representation that educators want to stand for? If any of these questions I've asked resonate with you, I invite you to consider joining an alternative, non-political teachers association, like the American Association of Educators. For just $19.50 a month, you can receive legal representation, $2 million in liability insurance, and access to your own legal advice without any political agenda or ideology. AAE will be there to guide you through any workplace issues, including bullying and harassment. Last year, while campaigning for school board candidates, my car window was broken, and after last week's speech, I received a threatening email that I have since reported to the police. I ask this board to protect all teachers and all students from the political influence that the teachers union brings into our district. We must make sure that District 11 is a place of learning, growth, and opportunity for everyone, free from divisive political ideologies. Thank you.
Kate DeJong. And the next one is Marsha West. Marsha West.
Having a good evening? Yeah. Apologize, sorry. One moment. I am Kate DeJong. I am an educator at North Middle School. I hopped across the street because I feel like I kind of have a unique insight into sort of this issue. So for context, I did my student teaching training in Buffalo, New York, and the school that I was at is in the Buffalo Public School District. And for those who are unaware, that is one of the strongest teachers unions in the country, or at least it was at the time that I was there. And I just kind of want to report on sort of how I felt, how the teachers felt, and jotted down some notes, I promise. So the school that I was at and the district I was in, we saw high achievement, we saw motivated students, we saw dedicated teachers. because they were able to trust that they were going to be working with the same people because there wasn't a high turnover. And they were able to build relationships. They were able to feel secure in their job, and that allowed them more energy and more ability to dedicate themselves to their students and their achievement. But that was not my only teaching experience. When I moved out to Colorado Springs, I worked with a district that will remain nameless for the moment. And this district did not have a union. And I want to report what I saw there. Actually, I say it didn't have a union. To be perfectly frank and honest, they had a union years before I got there, but it was broken by people like these lovely blue shirts right here. And I want to report what I saw. So no union. It was a priority turnaround school. We had abysmal graduation rates. There was incredibly high turnover. I cannot emphasize enough how high the turnover was at our schools. It made the news. Okay? In my second year there, my entire department, save for 2 people, left. Okay? And 6 months after I left, only 1 person remained. This is what we're signing up for if we abandon the master agreement. Okay? So, I understand that some people up here have some experience with the military, and I want to pose a question. Okay? What is the importance of unit cohesion? How vital is that for achieving the goals of a unit and a team? Can you cohesively come together as a unit if you have a revolving door in your unit? If there is a revolving door of teachers, how can you unify? The idea that eliminating the master agreement will improve student outcomes is pure fiction. I have seen it with my own eyes. These people, they're playing make-believe. And that's their business, but it becomes my business when they're playing it with our students' futures. I urge you, renew the master agreement and stop playing politics with our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Marsha West, and the next one is Lynn Chesler.
Hi there, I'm Marsha West. I am a proud Marauder at Mitchell High School, and I absolutely love my job. I have been in District 11 for 29 years. I have seen Julie Ott's kids go through Saban Middle School. I have worked with Sandy Bankus as assistant principal. I even had Jason Jorgensen in my 7th grade math class. So I have been around the district, and I am a dedicated teacher who has devoted most of my life to D11 and our students. I think there is some misunderstanding and misinformation about what CSEA is. We are your teachers in your district. We are not this scary, powerful political lobby that D11 Momentum is trying to portray. We have a passion for students, for learning, and for teaching. We are the boots on the ground, and more than anything, we want each and every one of our students to learn, grow, and succeed. That is why we became teachers. Our union used to have a great partnership with the board and the district. We all used to work together for what was best for students, and it felt like we were on the same team. For 56 years, we had an agreement where everyone came to the table in the spirit of collaboration and trust. That should mean something to us all. We have that kind of partnership at Mitchell High School between our building CSEA representatives and George Smith, our principal. Why can't we have that kind of partnership and mutual respect from our district leaders, our board, and our CSA directors? I keep hearing that this board is very pro-teacher, but I don't see it and I don't feel it. In fact, it feels like we are under attack and being vilified because we want a voice and a seat at the table with the representation of our union. And I can't help but wonder why. What is it that the district and the board want to do that they can't do under the master agreement? What is it that you all need that can't be worked out through collaboration and bargaining? I come to you in the spirit of cooperation, collaboration, and professionalism, with a strong desire to advocate for our students, teachers, staff, and community. My hope today is that the board will hear our voices and do the right thing for all D11 students and staff by preserving the master agreement. Thank you.
Lynn Chesler, Miss Lynn Chesler. The next one is Miss Candace Green. Candace Green.
Good afternoon, board. My name is Lynn Chesla. I am a grandparent of children in D11 school. My kids went through a D11 also. I spent 8 years as the Palmer Pride president down at Palmer. I would like to start by reading part of the master agreement. Did you know the contract protects academic freedom in the classroom? The contract gives the right to teachers to teach controversial issues given the lesson age is appropriate. The contract allows them to determine instruction appropriate for our students. To me, controversial issues should be discussed at home with your parents or your guardian. I don't think that should be discussed in school. If I want my grandkids to know about certain things, I will talk to them about it, not get somebody else's agenda and guide them towards that way. What is happening to teaching? Reading, writing, math, science, English, and history. That's what teachers are for. I have been dismayed by the disregard shown to the speakers at these meetings. Is this being taught in class, that if you disagree with something, you turn your back on that teacher? It has bothered me since the meeting last week. If the master agreement allows the teachers to disregard the wishes of the board, whom the parents, grandparents elected, then it should absolutely not be renewed. I thank you, the superintendent and the board, for making things right for our children. Thank you.
Ms. Candace Green. And the next one is Dr. Angelica Givler Pierce. Angelica Givler is on deck.
Good evening, I'm Candace Green. It's nice to see all of you, everyone, for coming out tonight. Introduce myself briefly. I'm a daughter of a naval aviator, class of 50, Annapolis. My son is Air Force recruiter. I support teachers. I support all public service. I support military. But I support more than anything else, I support respect. I'm a published author. I have been a teacher for 33 years in 3 different states, in 4 different school districts in those 3 states, and I have 4 master's degrees. In all of these years, not once, not one time have I ever felt so disheartened, disrespected, and disillusioned. And I worked in Harrison District 2 for 7 years, just so y'all know. I'm here this evening to speak on behalf of my fellow teachers, wherever they might be, in, out, or teaching clubs at school, or sports. I am here on behalf of them and myself and my family. I chose D11 because of what it has to offer children. I chose D11 for what it does for children. And if that master agreement helps us do that for children, then I made the right choice. I wanted stability, sustainability, hope, opportunity. I wanted to finish my tenure strong. I have 5 to 7 years left here in education, maybe more. And I seek to be the best for all my students. I seek to be my best self for all my families. Yet the school district, all of us in this room, can't see eye to eye. We can't seem to put our children first. And by taking teachers' attention away from our students in this manner, we are not doing what's right by them. I taught my club after school today, and I raced over here because I wasn't about to leave my students hanging at a very good part of my book that we're reading. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Angelica Givler-Viers. And then the next one is Rebecca Kenderdine. Ms. Rebecca Kenderdine.
Good evening, Board. I'm Dr. Givler-Viers, as you all know, and I am a teacher. We have heard a lot from community members that make a lot of claims about what we do and what we don't do. I'm here to tell you what we actually do. In my 16 years, I have many moments to celebrate. Last week, I celebrated with a student whose mom was told she is now cancer-free. Today, I cried when a student that is a struggling reader doubled his reading score. Last quarter, I laughed when a kid told me that I tricked him into liking a book that we read as a novel study. I let Bruce Coville know as well. There are extremely difficult times as well. I've received a phone call on a Sunday night because the parents and aunt and uncle of several of my students died that day in a plane wreck. I've helped students navigate the loss of friends. I've collected food from neighbors, friends, and families to drop off on my students' porches because of the COVID shutdowns and their families not being able to get food to their kids. I have adjusted entire units to go online, to be hybrid, and then back in person. I have again adjusted whole units because my current students have different needs, but also different skills because they were impacted by COVID in kindergarten and first grade. Teaching is more than following a script. It is so much more. Teachers are exhausted and leaving the profession to the extent that we are in a crisis. Lack of pay, but also respect are the leading causes. I worked in a district that lost collective bargaining. Overnight, our health benefits went up and our deductible was $5,000 for an individual. Plan time was pulled and all specials teachers were let go. Respecting teachers looks like allowing the voices of the people that directly impact students to be heard. Collective bargaining with a master agreement allows those voices to be heard. Why would you want to lose more teachers when our students need them? We need to respect teachers and keep the master agreement. I have invited all of you into my classroom and to our school numerous times. Come see what we do. At the beginning of the school year, I had 32 fifth graders in my room. We fought to get a third teacher. Luckily, we did, because now we have over 70 kids in fifth grade, and there's no way we could teach them with that many kids. We cannot lose teachers. We need all of them. Do not run off teachers. Extend the master agreement.
Thank you. Ms. Rebecca Kenderdine. Lisa Schott is the next one. Lisa Schott.
Good evening, Superintendent Gall, President Malpalcom, and board directors. My name is Rebecca Acevedo Kenderdine, and I'm a retired substitute teacher in D11. Thank you for allowing me to share my experiences as a teacher within the union this evening. I appreciate your commitment to understanding the challenges we face. I began my journey with District 11 in 2004 as a paraprofessional, and my bilingual skills provided me with the opportunity to take on the ELL liaison role at Wilson Elementary in 2005. When I received my teaching license, I felt pressure from the union to join. It was difficult for me to navigate this decision. and I was concerned about potential legal challenges that could arise from my role as a teacher. Out of fear for my future, I decided to become a member, although it was not a decision I took lightly. During my time at Wilson, I participated in community efforts to advocate for our salaries alongside my fellow teachers. However, there were challenges I encountered that left me feeling unsupported. A significant incident occurred between myself and another teacher where I sought the union's representation, only to be told that due to a conflict, they could not assist us. This was disheartening, especially since I had been diligently paying my dues in good faith, believing that the union would provide me the protection we deserved. This prompted me to drop my membership with CSEA. I also faced difficulties during the closure of Wilson High School. In addition, Mitchell High School left many teachers without a job, and the union did nothing for them. These situations raised questions about the union's support during critical times. It pains me to share that the information provided about the master agreement often felt misleading. There are beneficial labor laws that are for teachers in Colorado that protect employees. I found many of the assurances regarding the union's protections to be lacking. Contrary to what was communicated to us, I learned that many benefits are provided by the district rather than the union itself, and that unions can sometimes inadvertently hinder individual recognition and rewards for outstanding performance. I truly believe that the power and the influence of the union within District 11 needs to be reconsidered. It is my hope that the board will take the concern seriously and think about how we can work together to create a more compassionate and supportive environment for all educators and students. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you. Lisa Schott. And the next one is Lori Watson. Lori Watson.
Good evening. So I spoke last week, and I just want to say that I wasn't wearing anything offensive because my face wasn't shown along with all the others, and I am dressed exactly as I was last week, so I'm not sure why my face didn't get up there when everybody else's did. But the conversations last week that I heard, the speeches that were up here, we talk a lot up here, union bosses, it was political parties, the national NEA things. And just like someone else said, I am the union. It is your teachers that are here. When I come into this room, I speak my truth. I feel a sense of responsibility to give you the facts and reasons behind that. And every teacher who has stood up here has done the exact same thing, giving you so many examples of their day and what we need to be giving to you to know the proper things that you need to help us with. But what I'm hearing from the others is the words control, threaten, bullied, intimidation, big bad words. These are generalizations and they're allegations with no proof. I am professionalism. We are supporting nurses, counselors, librarians, all types of educators, our specials teachers. We are supporting each other. I am solidarity. What's really hard coming into this room is I do not feel supported. When I come in here, there is control of the media, just like my face wasn't shown. There's control of the media, what's on the screen. There is control of the public messaging. Last year, when you guys said that you gave the $50,000 salary, you made no mention that that was in collaboration with us. That was part of bargaining. Bargaining is both sides coming together. You have issues, and we came together to work on that. But we don't get to be part of that public messaging, and that's hard. Comments. We're told that we can't badmouth somebody. But last year, the CSEA president was badmouthed, not CSEA, badmouthed. And nothing was said to stop that person But when someone mentioned a name, didn't badmouth them, it was stated that they had to stop or they would be removed from their speaking. It's hard to come into this room when I don't feel that I get the same treatment as everybody else. I am justice. Okay? I am your union, and just like I said last week, it is not us versus them. It is about working together to create a stronger, more vibrant educational community, and I invite anyone to come to a SAC meeting, a PTO meeting, because we don't see people there. They're here, but why aren't you at our schools? I ask that you keep the master agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Watson. Ms. Lori Watson. The next one is Cheryl Saylor. Ms. Cheryl Saylor.
This should be familiar to the board members because I sent it to you last month. Dear board members and the 11 community, my purpose of speaking to you today is to give you my input in negotiations and approving our master agreement with the teachers. I know that some of you don't see things as I do, but I am hoping that giving history from my own perspective, that will help you to understand our point of view. For 56 years, we've managed to keep the peace with the master agreement. I would like to see this continue. With any issue that I've had in this district for 25 years, master agreement has helped me to know what my options were. Once it helped me to see that I had not fulfilled my obligations in the situation I was in. See, the master agreement is not one-sided document. It is a collaboration between the board, the administration, and the teachers. All sides have input into it, negotiations. It changes to meet the needs of the times. Each year we have the ability to discuss and change the language to fit the situations that arise. It is mutually negotiated, mutually beneficial, and mutually respectful of all sides' obligations. Teachers are your front line with students. We have an agreement with you to help us to do our jobs worry-free. The master agreement is unique. We have the ability to use it productively for half a century. Last year was the first year that we had to take grievances to the arbitration level because the master agreement was not followed. We used the procedures outlined in the master agreement to fight back, and we were right according to an outside judge in the matter. This shows that our teachers do need this protection and that it is valuable. Of course, you should choose to dispose of this agreement. We will have to fight back again. And the master agreement is clearly the reason that we've had very little litigation over the years. So I have a few questions. Do you have no desire to collaborate with your teachers? You make us take training that we will collaborate with our students. You think the teachers do not deserve a say in their working conditions or their pay? Are you afraid of our teachers, their needs and their opinions? If you have issues with the master agreement, they should be brought to negotiations and settled in that method that we've also always done so, not without the litigation and the lawyers. Lastly, my association is made up of teachers. We are not union thugs. We do not threaten political action. Almost all teachers are part of the association because it's our professional organizations to have something to say in our working conditions and treatment. It's our choice. And if you do not respect our choice, it means that you don't respect us. You're teachers. We have a lot to do together to make this district one of the best. Our association is not going to prevent you from that goal, so I ask you to leave it alone. Anything else is contrary to the goal. It is our right to organize, and we have always sought to behave collaboratively and have an attitude about this with our association, to work with the board and the administration to do what is best for our students. Please join us in that effort and stop this animosity that is building on both sides. Something I've never seen before. Have a good day.
Thank you. Okay. I've got about a dozen more public comments left, and we are at the 1 hour mark. So I'm going to look at the board and see if the board is interested in going through the rest of the public comments. And if you give me a thumbs up, then if I've got the collective will of the board, I can continue with the public comments out here. Okay, I've got 4, more than 4. Okay, thank you. We will continue with the rest of the public comments in a respectful manner, as we've been doing. Thank you. Ms. Cheryl Saylor. And the next one is Karna Prime. Karna Prime.
Good evening, Board, Superintendent Gall, and fellow community members. Let's begin with prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to get together as a concerned community to participate in actions taken by the Board of Education in regards to the education of our children. Please provide the wisdom and courage for each of our board members to do the right thing and keep us all focused on what is best for our children. We are blessed and so grateful. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. My name is Cheryl Saylor, and I come before you as a parent of 2 graduates from District 11 and the concerned grandparent of 2 children currently attending the district. I am a taxpayer in D11, and I have actively been involved in the district activities for about the past 5 years. I feel that I am fairly well versed in the facts of what our board and our district have been up to over these past years. I go through a long list of their accomplishments, but time is limited. Suffice it to say, I'm particularly proud of the focus and progress in academic achievement for our children, and in support of that, the priority of getting and retaining the best possible teachers. Now to the point of the master agreement, the reason most of us are here today. I was alarmed by the recent statement from a teachers union newsletter where they emphasize that the master agreement protects their freedom to teach controversial issues in the classroom. They declared, quote, "Our contract allows us the right to determine the instruction even if the D11 school board votes otherwise." Now this is very troubling. I have supported this board and quite frankly had my boots on the ground to help get them elected because their values align with my values, as well as the tens of thousands of people who voted the same way. Why should a master agreement enable teachers to undermine the values me and my community cherish? I trust this board to continue to work toward the best for our children in pursuing high academic standards and in eliminating the agenda supported by the NEA, CEA, and CSEA, best demonstrated by eliminating the equity department in the early days of the employment of our new superintendent. On behalf of my fellow community members, I declare to the board to vote to dismantle the master agreement and return control of District 11 to our board. This will ensure our schools continue to serve the interests and values of this community and keep the children and academics at the forefront of their actions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Karna Prime. Karna Prime. And the next one is Josh Rumpel. Josh Rumpel. Okay. I'm going to call again. Karna Prime. Prime. Karna Prime. Okay, I don't see a Karna Prime. So Josh Rumpel. The next one is Val DeMorte. Val DeMorte. Mr. Rumpel, go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Reverend Josh Rumpel, and I'm the Associate Minister at First Congregational Church in downtown Colorado Springs. A few of my congregants at the church are District 11 educators, and many of the children and youth are D11 students. I'm speaking today in support of our educators and students, and thus in support of the overall health and vibrancy of D11 as a whole. I have been gravely disappointed by the actions of you, the school board. Your continued efforts to undermine public education, your desire to get rid of the master agreement, and your lack of respect for educators, students, and the community itself is disheartening and discouraging. Personal agendas and partisan politics have influenced your decisions, and the decisions you make on behalf of the largest school district here in Colorado Springs. We've already witnessed an exodus of educators because of you, and I fear there will be an even greater exodus if the master agreement is canceled. If this is your goal, good job. If you want our students to be less educated, less respected, and less welcome, keep up the work. For so many students, school is a safe haven from the chaos of their life. Teachers work so incredibly hard to educate as well as to make our students better humans. I'm confident that our teachers work harder than most people with much less pay and much less support. Dr. Malpacum wrote these words: "As we look into the future, we are committed to the visionary mission of Mrs. Palmer, ensuring all our students receive a rich and rigorous educational experience built on fundamentals while providing them multiple pathways to explore their passion for continuous improvements in learning." Beautiful words. But I dare say ending the master agreements will threaten the very premise of these words. Don't cancel it, school board. Our community is watching, begging you to do the right thing. Our educators deserve our support. Thanks.
Thank you. Val DeMorte. The next one is Abigail Bergman. But Val DeMorte. No. Okay. Abigail Bergman. Abigail Bergman. Abigail Bergman.
I will pass for today. I have a sore throat. I will pass.
Okay. Thank you. Joel Sorensen. Joel Sorensen. The next one is Trevor Malloy. Trevor Malloy.
Good evening, Board. My name is Joel Sorensen. I'm a former D11 student and a current D11 resident. I'm here tonight to ask you to end the master agreement with a local affiliate of the NEA. For 50 years, the master agreement has allowed a special interest group which advocates on behalf of the far left across this country and here in this community, control of the steering wheel, which this community elected to give you. Let that sink in. An organization which spends millions of dollars to democratic political causes, an organization which spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to keep you out of this board, is allowed shared governing authority to lead the district in this contract. Our community elected you. They elected your vision. Just a couple of weeks ago, the union said in a newsletter to their members that they literally have the ability to override your decisions on curriculum and instruction. They did so advocating, by the way, in defense of the master agreement. That wasn't a slip of the tongue. That was a reason to keep it, so that they could continue to have this authority over your decision-making. Make no mistake, this has nothing to do with kids. It has nothing to do with protecting teachers. It has to do with a half-century of special interest power losing control of this school district. The reason that I know that is because it is the only district in this county which has a master agreement, and yet every other district has competitive with D11 pay and benefits. And until you came along, D11 was well behind these other districts, despite having a master agreement far longer than you've been here. It doesn't have to do anything to do with teachers. It doesn't have anything to do with students. It has to do with special interest power. So do not be intimidated. When the threats and lies come at their loudest, and I know that you've already received them, know that this community is behind you. 27,000 people. 27,000 people don't sit in this room tonight. They don't stand outside. 27,000 people have jobs and kids in this district. Their parents and their community members, and many of them are teachers who feel intimidated by this union. They elected you for tonight. Tonight is the reason that this board is here. Tonight, you have the opportunity to fulfill your mandate. You have the opportunity to release District 11 from the fetters that have bound it for 50 years. So take courage, take heart. Thank you very much for your work in these last 3 years, and fulfill your mandate. End the master agreement. Thank you very much.
Trevor Malloy. Okay. The next one is Jennifer Strombeck. Jennifer Strombeck.
Good evening, school board members, educators, and community. Thank you for giving me, Trevor Malloy, D11 resident, the opportunity to address you. I come before you not out of opposition, but out of a deep concern for our students, schools, and community's future. Schools are meant to be a beacon of learning, integrity, and opportunity. They should instill in children not only knowledge, but also the values that make America strong: freedom, responsibility, and the ability to think critically. However, when an organization aligns itself with ideologies that conflict with those values, we must examine its role and influence with clear eyes and open hearts. It is no secret that some leaders and policies within this teachers' union have supported ideas and organizations that oppose American capitalism and promote communism. This is deeply troubling for several reasons. Communism, as history painfully teaches us, undermines individual liberty, stifles free thought, and erodes the very principles upon which our republic is built. The question we must ask is whether an organization with such associations should be entrusted with shaping the policies that directly affect children's education. I want to be clear. This is not an attack against the hardworking, dedicated teachers who show up every day to inspire and educate. Our educators are heroes, but the union is not a classroom teacher. It represents its own political agenda, one that prioritizes power and dominance over education and excellence. Continuing this master agreement would grant undue influence to an organization whose priorities aren't aligned with what is best for our community or students. Instead of fostering an environment of impartiality, independent thought, and a love for liberty, it would risk politicizing education and compromising the values we strive to uphold. Terminating this agreement is not about creating division, but about reaffirming our commitment to these principles. It is about ensuring that our schools remain places of learning, not platforms for ideological influence. As taxpayers and members of this community, we entrust the school board to carefully consider the organizations and policies that shape our schools. This moment requires courage. It requires leadership. By severing ties with this union, we are sending a message that our community stands for accountability, freedom, and the best interests of education over politics. I urge you, as stewards of our education system, to take a stand. Instead of empowering a centralized union with questionable affiliations, we should be empowering our local educators directly and building a system that prioritizes children and families. By doing so, we not only uphold the values of our community, but also set an example for our children about the importance of standing up for what is right. Thank you, and may we have the courage to do what is right.
Jennifer Strombeck. And the next one is Tom Jacobs. Tom Jacobs.
My name is Jennifer Strombeck, and I'm speaking tonight as a parent and as a resident of D11. As a lifelong Colorado Springs resident, I graduated from District 20. But when I purchased my home, I looked specifically within D11 because I wanted to send my 3 children to District 11 neighborhood schools. I listened to the board meeting a few weeks ago and heard many comments from community members that identified themselves as residents of D11 or residents of Colorado Springs. I didn't hear from the parents of D11 students. I think it is easy to become afraid of what we don't know. What many community members don't know is what is actually being taught in schools. They fear that schools want to undermine their values as parents. As a parent, I understand the fear, but as an involved parent in D11, those fears are unfounded. My 3 students have been enrolled ever since preschool and are currently in grades 12, 10, and 8. We have had dozens of amazing teachers over the last decade and a half who have shaped them to who they are today. In addition to meeting and exceeding expectations on both math and reading standards, here's just a sampling of what they've learned. To play an instrument, to read and write in Spanish, to code, to develop and publish a yearbook, to maintain a bicycle, to write a personal college essay, to swim competitively, to be a good teammate, to build a robot, to collaborate with others, to create a budget, to speak in front of groups, to understand how government works, to keep trying when things are hard, and of course, calculus, but never a political agenda. My senior is waiting for her college decisions. Her top choice is so far away from home. But I know wherever she goes, she got there because her D11 teachers who are experienced, knowledgeable, and trustworthy. My middle child dreams of becoming a teacher, like Mrs. Moyer, but I have been cautioning her against it because, like all parents, I want my children to pursue careers that make them feel valued and fulfilled, but also where they are respected and treated fairly. I hope that the board considers showing that they value the professionalism of their teachers by maintaining their agreement and protecting teaching as a sustainable career. But when Darth Vader said, "I'm altering the deal, pray I don't alter it further," we know how truly ruthless he is. When the special interest groups that have no personal stake in D11 move on to a new project, the rest of us will still be here because we are the D11 community, the voters, the voice. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Tom Jacobs. The next one is Mr. William James.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Gall, and community members. My name is Tom Jacobs. I first started working in District 11 in 2002 at Doherty High School. I was there for 3 years. Then I got bored and joined the Peace Corps, left the country for a few years, came back and decided to rejoin District 11 because I was so impressed with the experience I had the first time. Went directly to Wasson High School, was there for 5 years until it closed. So for those of you who mentioning me, thank you very much. I appreciate the recognition. From there, I went to Mitchell well, except for I went back to the Peace Corps, and then I went back to Mitchell. And I was there for the last 11 years, which means I was there for the closure 4 years ago. That was also a difficult position. I appreciate the recognition for that as well. Thank you.
Every time you turn around, I can't hear you.
I was just thanking them for recognizing what we went through at Wasson and Mitchell. Thank you, Sandra. About 30 years ago, in my first year of teaching, I failed a student. At the end of the course, I did a survey, and I asked the students to give me their feedback on how the course went for them that year. And I'm here 30 years later. I still remember her name, and I still remember what she said. She said, "I'd rather chew off my thumb than take your course again." I failed that student. I don't mean she failed the course. I mean what I did for her, I failed. And I think on reflecting on what happened, I failed to listen to her. I failed to get to know her. Earlier today, I was given a transition assessment to one of my students. I work in special education. Transition, we're preparing students to live life beyond high school. And on this transition assessment, which was a self-determination assessment, was a question. It was a simple question. It said, "Other people like me." And he checked, "I disagree." There are only two options, I agree or I disagree. He checked, "I disagree." This is a great kid. He's a wonderful child. I knew he had read the problem wrong because he had a learning disability, so I took the question back to him because I'd learned my lesson. I need to listen to my students. I need to listen to the people I serve. I went back and I asked him, I said, "Is this true or not?" And he said, "That's true, nobody likes me." And then a conversation happened that would not have happened if I didn't listen to him. For the past couple of weeks, I've been walking around Mitchell asking teachers, "How do you feel about the board canceling the master agreement?" I'm telling you, you need to listen to us. The teachers who are in the building, please do not cancel the master agreement. right now in my life, I'm having to ask my question, do I want to continue to work for this district or chew off my own thumb? I bet I find another option, and I hope we can too. Please extend the master agreement. Have a good night.
Mr. William James. William James. Okay, the next one is Sharon Simpson. Sharon Simpson Dagon. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is William James. I'm a resident of District 11 and a parent of District 11 students. You have to bear with me, I'm a little nervous. I don't usually do any public speaking. I'm an engineer. I talk to satellites, not people. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a trained lobbyist. I'm just a parent. But here's what I've learned. In my industry, if you mess with people's pay and benefits, they'll leave. They'll go somewhere else, because there's always someplace better to go. But here's the thing about District 11. It is one of the best places to be right now. Teachers want to teach here. I see it all the time. And even D11 Momentum's website calls out how great District 11 is, how much progress has been made. They call out how other districts should emulate what you do here. The only problem is, the only thing they get wrong is where they contribute all of that to one thing. But it's not. It's a multitude of things. But the majority of what it is the hard work, dedication of the teachers of District 11. And on top of that, they are the best and the brightest. Do you want them to bail? Do you want them to jump ship and go somewhere else? Do you want to undo all of the hard work and achievements that you've accomplished this far? I would recommend against it. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sharon Simpson, Dagon. Willie Brazil, Mr. Willie Brazil is next.
Good evening, Dr. Mel Packham, members of the board. I'm Sharon Simpson Dogon. I'm a longtime resident of District 11, an alumna of Mitchell, a District 11 retiree, and the daughter of a school board member that implemented the master agreement. District 11's CSEA has been mischaracterized over many, many months. It has been mischaracterized as being anti-parent. How? There are parents that comprise CSEA. There are parents who are members of the SAC, parents who are members of the DAC. It's been mischaracterized as being anti-excellence. All of the teachers in District 11 are striving to do their best for the students at District 11. It has been mischaracterized as being anti-public input. The public are invited to SAC committees, to the DAC. I am not a D11 parent. I am serving on a SAC as a community member. There's public input from us. We have heard tonight some members of this listening audience asking you to have the courage to do what is right. I'm asking you to do what is right. I'm asking you to listen to the teachers who are stepping foot in the classrooms every day, taking work home every day, taking the memories of your students home with them every day. How do I know that? Because I did the same thing for 33 years. The master agreement was not created by some external organization. It was co-created by a board and teachers. All of the people who are sitting on this dais today, primary pronunciation, sitting on this dais today really care, but where is that caring happening? Is it caring because you have received hundreds of thousands of dollars in support of your being there to drive a national agenda that has been in place for about 4 decades to try to dismantle public education? That's not what you're here to do. You're here to listen to the people who are in this room, living next door to you in your neighborhoods. They are not the represented 9% of the people who voted for 30% of the members on this board. I ask you to do what is right, to come to that intersection on the Venn diagram of the school board and the teachers. There's an intersection. Meet there. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Willie Brazil. No. Okay, Mr. Willie Brazil, I don't think he's here. Okay, that ends our public comments. I've gone through all the public comments. I truly appreciate all of you coming up to the podium and presenting it in an orderly manner. I know that there are strong emotions in this room, but I truly appreciate all of you respecting the professional decorum in the boardroom. A couple of things that was mentioned. I think one of the public commenter mentioned that her face was not shown on the media. That will be communicated to our media department. It was not shown last week, I think. That was the comment. And then I want to give kudos to our security. Our security is doing the best that they can to ensure that we can conduct this board business in an orderly manner. It is not meant to be disrespectful of our teachers or anybody that is there in the audience today. We just want to make sure that the board business is being conducted in an orderly manner. Audience members are always welcome to come and attend board meetings. We count on your presence and engage in this public discourse that's happening up here. Okay, thank you for the public comments. Moving on to the action item on the agenda, there is a couple of action items, and I'll go to the first one first, which is the term of the master agreement. I will provide some context and facts to the community before I open it up for the board. So beginning in October, the Board of Education has discussed in a total of 5 executive sessions various options pertaining to the master agreement, including the term of the agreement and the exchange of issues, seeking legal advice along the way. During last year's negotiation, a provision was added to the master agreement to state that by the 3rd Wednesday in January, either party, that is the Board of the Education or the CSEA board, can provide written notice and express their intent to not extend the contract. If no notice is given by January 15th, the contract automatically renews for an additional year. Essentially, the January 15th deadline requires both parties to resolve the term of the agreement first before engaging in this year's negotiations. After discussion, the will of the board was not to exchange additional issues last week. In the spirit of good faith negotiations, the board expressed intent to first resolve the term of the agreement. I shared this with the community because I was at a school today. I attended a PTA meeting, and this was brought up as to why the board did not exchange issues. And it was to ensure that the term of the agreement was first resolved by the board. And we didn't want to, the will of the board was not to exchange issues and look, be considered not in good faith afterwards. With that context, I will turn to the board to start this discussion for this evening. And I'm going to first go to Vice President Hafley. Vice President Hafley. And you have a motion, Vice President Hafley?
Yes, I do. I move that pursuant to Article 19 of the Master Agreement with the Colorado Springs School District 11, the Board of Education not extend the master agreement beyond the June 30th, 2025 expiration date.
Moved and seconded. You got who seconded? Okay, thank you. And so there is a motion on the floor. We will engage in this discussion going forth on this motion. And I will go to you, Vice President Hafley, first. Thank you.
Thank you, President Malpacum. This decision enables us to prioritize our goals and embrace new opportunities. Those goals are listed over there on the banner. We are transitioning to an opportunity-driven district, moving away from a fear-based contractual approach. To our teachers, I want you to truly hear this. This is not an attempt to undermine or disadvantage you. Your salary schedule will remain intact. Your benefits will not change. Your retirement is secure. Your leave time is unchanged. You will not be asked to work without pay, and your planning time will not be reduced. Our goal is to support you better and create an environment where you thrive. This is about giving you a choice in representation. Currently, about 40% of teachers are not members of CSEA, and we want every teacher's voice to count, not just a segment. This is about opportunity and shifting our culture for the better. It's not about taking anything away from you. I was you for 30 years. I was a D11 teacher for 29 of my 30 years. I was a member of the union twice. So for those of you that think that I'm not pro-teacher, I can't begin to tell you how pro-teacher I am. For more than half of my life, I have been devoted to this profession, to the kids that came through my classroom. Any one of those kids would tell you the same thing. Many of those kids that are of age and registered voters voted for me. Thank you. I don't know what camera to look at. Their parents supported me because they knew I was committed to their children and to their children's education. Every member of this board is pro-teacher. I've said this before. I said it in April. I'm going to say it again. The majority of members are teachers. 4 of the 7 of us are experienced educators in this district or neighboring districts and the academy, collectively bringing 69 years in the classroom. I share this tonight to set the record straight because recent media posts and emails have been making false accusation about this board and the superintendent, disparaging our efforts to support teachers and students. These messages are malicious. They are incendiary. They are divisive, and above all, they are patently false. I personally find them offensive. And I'm going to go off my own little notes here. I worked my tail off in school to be a teacher. I worked my tail off to be a good teacher. And I was. I was a 6-time award-winning teacher in 30 years. I worked my tail off for other people's children to make sure that those kids had a good education, to the detriment of my own family. And I do it again in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. So I'm going to continue to correct these inaccuracies that are floating around and the threats that have been made on board members and their children. The 5E survey highlights that new elementary teachers feel supported, and school culture is steadily improving. Over the past year, the board secured substantial pay raises for educators. The calendar was adjusted, ensuring teacher representation on the committee that shaped those decisions. And as a matter of levity, I wish I had a fall break when I was teaching. I'm so glad that you guys got a fall break. I know it was difficult. I know that it wasn't 100% perfect. Nothing is. But I'm grateful that y'all had a fall break. Before each board meeting, we celebrate the incredible work of our teachers and programs, showcasing students' achievements and projects. Last year, Superintendent Gall and the board took proactive steps to safeguard teacher positions by adjusting the budget. We prioritized allocating funds directly to classrooms, avoiding teacher layoffs despite budget reductions. We are not anti-teacher. Any necessary cuts were made at the central administration level, ensuring that our teachers and our students were protected. We've improved starting teacher pay, enhanced benefits, and actively addressed your concerns about classroom challenges, including attendance, behavior, and the overuse of cell phones. In response, we implemented policies to tackle these issues, becoming the first district in El Paso County to remove cell phones from the learning environment. It deeply saddens me to think that anyone could believe that I would support anything that goes against the principles and purpose to which I've devoted my life. Nothing could be farther from the truth. I remain fully committed to advocating for all staff. I believe there's going to be a new employee handbook, which will be designed to be inclusive of all employee groups to ensure an equal voice for all D11 employees. Our approach aligns with the practices of other school districts in El Paso County and is essential for driving positive momentum that we're already building in D11. That being said, we want to be able to give teachers more money. That's what we're fighting for. Believe it or not, it's true. We want to address teacher shortages. So for instance, high school calculus teachers, special ed teachers, and all teachers in certain challenging schools, we want to pay them more. We're not talking about lowering anybody's pay. I would not stand for that as a member of this board. I think any member of this board would tell you that. We want to increase the pay of educators in hard-to-fill positions. We want to remove burdensome bureaucratic processes when the district needs to make decisions quickly. So, for example, after COVID, we needed to add 30 minutes to the school day in order to help our students make up lost ground. Getting the union to agree to this was very difficult and time-consuming. When our students have needs, the district needs to be able to pivot quickly to address them. That's what we're talking about here. We want to give teachers the choice of benefits. Right now, the master agreement precludes the district from communicating to teachers offerings that compete with the union's offerings. For instance, liability insurance from providers other than the union. That's unfair to teachers, and it benefits no one but the union itself. And let me put it in layman's terms, so this is easy for anybody to understand. CSEA is the sole unit of representation in D11, and that's fine if that's what you want for yourself. But if I can't find what I'm looking for at JCPenney, I'm going to go to Kohl's. And if I can't find what I'm looking for in Kohl's, I'm going to go to Dillard's. And if I can't find what I'm looking for at Dillard's, I'm going to go to Amazon. I'm going to go to Costco. I'm going to go to Sam's. I'm going to go somewhere that I can find what I'm looking for, because JCPenney is not the end-all, be-all of department stores. Same thing goes for grocery stores. If I can't find what I'm looking for at Safeway, I'll go to King Soopers. That's what we're talking about here. Offering choice to teachers is not a bad thing. We're all about choice for parents. We're all about choice for students. Why are we not about choice for teachers? Teachers have a right to choose for themselves. The master agreement requires the district to subsidize the union, which is a private corporation, with public taxpayer dollars in the form of salaries, dues deductions, the use of district facilities, and more. This is an improper use of public dollars. So as stewards of the taxpayer, this board recognizes the imperative of ending this practice. And finally, the master agreement requires annual negotiations that don't accomplish anything but to create an opportunity for drama and posturing. Last year, the board entered negotiations fully committed to giving teachers every available dollar in additional compensation. That's the God's honest truth. Negotiations didn't change that, but afterwards the union pretended that it had extracted compensation that in fact the board was already intending to give. So that process is divisive and unproductive. And finally, I want to say, CSEA isn't going anywhere. If you want to be represented by CSEA, be represented by CSEA. But there are about 40% of the teachers in this district that don't want to be represented by CSEA. And if we're talking about inclusion and being equitable to people, then everyone needs to have a voice at the table. That's what we're talking about. Nobody's attacking teachers. I won't stand for that. Nobody wants to take anything away from you. I won't stand for that. Those people that know me know that about me. I have a huge sense of justice, and I won't stand for that. Those of you that don't know me, I invite you to get to know me. I may be a bit of a bear when I'm poked. There isn't anything I wouldn't have done for my students that was legal. There is nothing that I wouldn't do for the teachers of this school district, as long as it's legal. And I believe teachers need choice. And with that, President Malpacum, I am done with my comments.
Thank you. Director Hafley, response from board members. I see Dr. Bankus. Director Bankus.
I want to start out by saying a little bit about myself. I come out of East LA. I'm first generation American. My parents didn't finish high school. My father did not finish elementary school. And yet by the time he was done, he made sure that the three of us all graduated out of high school. I am the first in my family to go to college. And I have to say, if it wasn't for public education, I would not be here today. I would not have a doctorate. I would not have a master's degree. I would not have a bachelor's degree. Public education is the door that opens up for us to be able to get into society and live the kind of life we want. And as I heard my colleagues say, it's about choice. I also can go through and talk about teachers who have made a difference in my life. I would like to think, and actually I know, that I have made a difference in the lives of the children that have come through my doors. I've listened to your heartfelt stories. I have my own. I have buried children who got caught up in traffic accidents or gang violence. I have seen my kids go off to Notre Dame on a full ride scholarship. And you have to remember, I was only a 5th grade teacher. So when you see and you plant those seeds of how it is that your children can meet the challenges and the rigors of what's being presented to them, it does depend on all of us teachers. No matter where you stand on this contract or no contract, we come because we have a mission in life. And that mission is to do the best for our kids that we can do and be a good role model for them. And that's an important piece. When we take a look at our job here as Board of Directors for the school district, you know that in the state of Colorado, that we operate under local control. So you heard some information before about how it is that people voted and we got into office. Well, that's local control. You as parents, whether you're the teachers or whether you're the community members, you are part of that local control, and we exhibit that by the decisions that we make. And I'll draw your attention again to the board priorities. We've worked on those, we focus on those, we make decisions based on those. When we talk about how it is that we want to see you as professionals in your field, it is with the utmost respect. It's respect because, again, you are the backbone. I was the backbone. She was the backbone, and every other teacher that was sitting on this board have been the backbone of what it is to grow up in America today. And I believe in America. I believe what we stand for. I believe that we have an opportunity, and that opportunity comes from not only the teachers in school that spend so much time with our children and buying books for them and making sure they have clothes and making, we've all done it, and we do it willingly. And we do it willingly because that is what we're called to do. When we take a look at what's under our agenda today that brings us all here today, I've thought a lot about it. I've looked back on my own experiences, and so let me go back to the notes that I have. In the state of Colorado, school boards operate under local control. In keeping with board priorities, decisions made by this board fall into one of those four targeted areas. In reviewing the interaction between the board and CSEA, the lines have been blurred between a public entity represented by duly elected board members and a private organization. I understand that 16 of the 17 school districts in the county, and we've heard this before, operate without a master agreement. I have been a teacher or an administrator in 4 of the districts here in the county. I've worked with a master agreement, I've worked without one. I have been successful, and I'm glad to be able to point that out for those of us who teach. I've been successful in my career, and I've been able to move from one district to another, bringing the skills and talents, motivation and commitment everywhere I went, because that's what we do, and it's to make things better. Today we're going to vote on this decision, and when I look at my 30 years in education, I also looked at the emails, listened to the phone calls sent to the board. I've listened to the comments made by staff and constituents during public comments, and I take the responsibility as a board member to ensure the district provides high-quality instruction, fiduciary accountability, and conditions to support a high-functioning staff. Some concerns have been voiced that a vacuum some concerns have been voiced that a leadership vacuum could be created without a master agreement. Rest assured that this board and this administration will deliver a staff teacher handbook that reinforces our commitment to prioritizing student outcomes, teacher empowerment, and I'll say that again, teacher empowerment. There's a decision, and I see you shaking your head, and I'm saying that there's a distinction between empowerment and decision-making. Decision-making, as I mentioned earlier, between our conversations has become muddled. When shared decision-making, you have to remember that we are responsible for the business of this district. And so while your information is important, and it is important, and we do listen to it, we also put it into the context of how it is that we got here and what our responsibilities are as a public entity responsible for public education, which means all of the children who want to come to our school, and we educate to the best of our ability. You've seen decisions made by this administration and this board that have protected the sanctity of the classroom. You have seen this board make decisions, and this superintendent look to how it is that we can enhance our working environment by the pays that has come through, by the supplies that are being provided, by systematizing and reorganizing so that we are more efficient. What other district, for those of you who have worked in other districts, have ever experienced a district moving as quickly as we have in the last 3 years? There will be a handbook that reinforces our commitment to prioritizing student outcomes, teacher empowerment, parental engagement by delivering a high-quality work environment, exceptional compensation and benefits, and an open line of communication for every employee in every school. When you look at other districts, we are operating in a way that is consistent with what reasonable people expect for an institution to behave. So, your experience in District 11, I would like to see it continue. I would like to see that you can see that we are working to the best of what we have to offer to make sure that you are treated as professionals, that this constant drum roll of how teachers are not respected. Let's put it in context. When we visit schools and we see you in your classrooms and we come to your events and we see parents interacting with all, excuse me, we see parents interacting with their teachers and how much the kids love their teachers. We know we're on the right track. We are supportive of one another, and I would like to continue to support one another. Are we all going to agree on everything? No. But we are going to agree that the kids are important, that you deserve to be treated as professionals, and we as your duly elected board members deserve also your respect for the responsibility that we have taken on in this time of change. And change is difficult. We all go through change. Excuse me. I'll end my comments there before I cough way more. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Bankus. If you want to add something extra, you can let me know. I see Director Nelson.
My comments are brief. It is my honor to serve the students, families, staff, and community of Colorado Springs District 11 as a member of the Board of Education. The Colorado Springs Education Association is not accountable to the students, families, and District 11 community. The CSEA Master Agreement contract gives a private corporation authority over a public institution. Based on principle, I will be voting against a contract renewal. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from board members before I wrap it up and call for a roll call? I don't see any other comments at this time. Okay. Yep. Director Jurgensen.
I apologize. Well, let's rearrange the
Yeah,
order.
and I see Director Ott after that. Thank you.
Rearrange the order of this a little, because some of it's been spoken well tonight. The majority of our board is educators, as you've heard, and I think that I'd like to maybe bring a little bit of we all kind of shared our experience as that path. Some of you might not know, but I started at Carver Elementary, and my favorite teacher there was Miss Skip a Line Reiniger, because when we learned cursive, we'd skip a line and take our time to learn how to do the cursive. And yes, Miss West was my math teacher at Sabin. And then I went to Doherty and graduated from there. And it was Mr. Gigliotti who, Director Ott and Mel Packham just were there with me at his funeral a couple Sundays ago, who inspired me to be a teacher. And so I stayed local and became a teacher, and was very eager to get a job, and I found a job down in Harrison, District 2, which I believe one of the speakers tonight spoke about. And I have a little bit different experience, so it was good to hear her side of the story. But my experience was much different. It was, I was hired on right when that union was dissolved. And so I was told, get your union and get protected and all that. And when I learned where it was going and the dollars that I had, which I was making $1,900 a month, and I thought that was a lot of money as a starting teacher. And to see that $75 at that time was going to such things, I just had to not do it. So I said, I'm not going to do the union, and I love the ability to, in this case, it was Mr. Miles' pay for performance. I'm a good go-getter, and so I said, well, let me see what this can do. And I quickly became a distinguished teacher. We went through the whole process, helped kids. We were among one of the leading middle schools in the district, and that was my experience. I had the understanding that, I realized that if I was doing a good job, or I saw issues within the system, then I could address those with my leaders, and I would get help. That if I wasn't really worried or never taught to fear being misrepresented or treated unjustly, or worrying if I had representation if I was called in the principal's office, which happened a couple times over 10 years. We all make mistakes. But I didn't have that experience. I just showed up for the kids, worked at balancing my work and family life, which is possible after you get through those first few years of teaching, as we all know. And we always just joked, really at the time, that when we got tired and we wanted to slow down and work less hard, we could go to D11. That was a joke we had in D2. And I'm sorry to say that now, but that was the talk of the teaching staff at D2 at the time. So I'll go back to just a couple of my other thoughts here. There are many widely shared concerns about unions. First, their political activity and how their use of their dues to advance partisan causes can be distasteful to some. They can injure some members' interests while advancing the interests of others, like Director Hafley mentioned. When employees may need help, CSEA can prevent them from getting the help they need from other preferred sources other than the CSEA as the exclusive bargaining agent of D11. That's just not equitable. The union is not governed by any obligation to provide quality service, as we are duly elected officials to the Board of Education. And so the exclusive representation of the CSEA with the district, because it's always how it's been, has to be discussed. Not only can unions hold the employees hostage, but also students and their parents. School choice, which is antithetical to the teachers' unions across the country, has been attacked time and time again. And they want your child to be forced to attend a school under the union's master agreement, even if that school is underperforming. Additionally, not all of teachers' CSEA dues stay local, as we've heard. Portions are sent to the state level union, the CEA, and other portion to their dues goes to the NEA, the National Education Association. I even learned that last week we had an NEA representative here to help with the CSEA's display outside last week. These two organizations do not care about our D11 teachers or students like this board and future boards will. Instead, these two parent organizations have voted and approved pushing CRT, the 1619 project, and defeating Colorado bills that expand educational choice and parental rights. Just last year, the CEA passed a resolution condemning capitalism. I know because I urged the board to pass a resolution against their resolution because it was just bonkers thinking. A system built upon an individual's freedom to choose. We can't have that, can we? Especially when it comes to education. And even more devastating to our district was the CEA's opposition to Senate Bill 22039 a few years back. This bill would have fully funded education to the tune of an additional $500 million, but because that bill also provided a measly $67 million towards school choice, the union could not support sending $500 million to public schools that they claim are starving for funds. In just that last election we had, the union was also so against parents' rights to choose that they came out strongly against Amendment 80, which would have further guaranteed school choice in our state constitution. So some might ask, why didn't we consider another master agreement? Or we heard tonight, why don't you come to the bargaining table to deal with these issues? And my sentiment personally is that it would never be good enough for the CSEA, and that's because of past experiences. You see, even when the CSEA has gone back to the good faith, even the CSEA has gone back on good faith negotiations while I've served on this board. A few years back, we bargained to have the CSEA handle their own members' dues, opting to not have our taxpayer-funded HR talent handle the dues deductions, sending dollars to a third-party private organization. So in good faith, we came to the conclusion that the practice would stop and CSEA would either handle their own dues or at least pay our D11 team to take care of that for them. Not 2 months later, I remember, a grievance came from the CSEA stating that it's been common practice and it should remain as the same way. And at that time, the superintendent succumbed to that grievance and just said, okay, we'll go back to the way it's always been. So I wonder, when you tell me, why don't you go to the negotiation table and fix this? Why don't you bring a different master agreement? The answer is it would never be good enough, and it hasn't been good enough because there's only 2 issues that you can bring, and they usually get swatted down, or in this case, we bring one to the table, it gets approved, and then they come back and grieve it. There's basically, it's hard for them to be accepting of anything other than what they currently have, and they want a master agreement with a multi-year contract with little accountability. So for those asking what will protect teachers, I think we've heard that tonight, I'll skip this section. We will not leave teachers unprotected, and the law won't either. So for the number of rumors and fear-inducing sentiments that are going around our schools, it's not healthy or accurate, as you heard from Director Hafley. It doesn't help us take care of students or their families. The CSEA is not a form of public government, as you heard. It's a non-elected private corporation, and do not support having our hands forced by a private corporation in the form of this union master agreement. We've been bargaining away the authority of our local control for over 50 years. I am ready for that to come to an end this evening. It's why I ran for re-election and why you put me on this dais. This is our choice to make as a school board. It's the reason we were elected, and I know that we will be held accountable by our voters in our community, and we will take care of things as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Ott.
Thank you. First, I want to thank all of our speakers who came up to speak tonight. It does take a little bit of courage quite often, and I wouldn't want to be on your spot myself. So thanks for being engaged with the Board of Education. And I will echo my fellow board members who are asking for everyone to stick to the facts. That's incredibly important. The rumors just check in with us if you hear something that doesn't sound right. That said, I am disappointed and dismayed with the motion, and it will come as no surprise to probably anyone who pays attention to our board and politics. I believe that this motion and the ending of the master agreement, for starters, is a distraction from our focus on students, and I don't think we will gain anything sufficient by ending the master agreement. With this motion, I believe the board's not taking the opportunity to discuss concerns with the union, with our employees that we might find significant and want to change. We're not renegotiating the entire agreement, and a handbook has been mentioned. We are not even saying we want to negotiate a partial agreement while we replace a majority of the contract with a handbook. I will keep an open mind about the development of a handbook, but I think we all recognize that handbooks are not contracts. There's no guarantees, no promises. And I've already noted with some of you that I do have concerns about our adherence to existing handbooks. And unfortunately, we know we don't even have this year's ESP and Exec Pro handbooks compiled and published. They are, I will note, sticking to facts, last year's are listed on our website, and then, oh, by the way, here are the agreements. They have not been combined. So that complicates things, I think, for representation of our ESP and Exec Pros. So when I talk to employees currently, I would say fear is already part of our culture. Fear that if someone speaks up, they can lose their job. A contract would assuage that fear. And some employees, I'm sticking to the facts again, some employees believe they can't even write a letter to the board right now. So education support professionals that may have heard that, I want to assure you that you can and should address the board if you have concerns. Although, be careful if you decide to do a walkout, because that is not covered. While teachers have some protections through state law, many have spoken to the fact that they come to the district because of this contract. So they must feel that there is a benefit, and I'm choosing to believe them. A majority of the teachers belong to the union. It's been noted by some that this is costly, yet they persist, suggesting that they find value in representation and a master agreement. I appreciate that one teacher, by the way, reached out with some studies and data regarding the benefits of unions. And I was looking for that information myself, being a data fan. So thank you for sending that. I have yet to hear of anyone leaving the district because of our contract with the union. So if even one or two teachers are coming here because of that master agreement, I figure we have an advantage in recruitment and retention. And I'm all for that in a world where we are not growing enough teachers. They are not growing on trees. So we certainly want to encourage it, encourage a culture of trust and respect, and part of that, according to them, is a master agreement. Further, it's bringing clear and consistent guidelines for the district, for the teachers. In 7 years on this board, I've never felt decisions were held back because of teachers. Rather, I believe teacher representation has enriched and informed our conversations. I want to note, as far as politics, we're all nonpartisan representatives, in theory. And that said, I know the union has supported Republicans, Democrats, and unaffiliated candidates. So when people go throwing the union under the bus for only supporting the far left, well, my Republican former fellow board members are going to be really surprised to hear that suddenly they've been categorized as such, and probably deny such affiliations with the far left. So several of us met with CSEA representatives last week, that was mentioned earlier. I thought it was an easygoing and fruitful conversation. I know I wasn't the only board member who learned something, and I appreciated those who took their time on a school night to meet with us. And again, all of you who were here on a school night. I believe we need more of that and not less. listening to our employees, all of them, truly hearing their concerns, and moving forward in a collaborative discussion, which hasn't really been a word up here tonight, but a collaboration to create a positive culture where everyone wins, especially our students. Also last week, we recognized an increased number of schools with a rating of accreditation with distinction and performance. That number is growing. Board President Mel Packham noted that the district performance framework has risen. Student outcomes have improved. That's certainly for a lot of reasons. Additional federal funding, intervention support for students, and teacher and principal supports and professional development have made a difference. Our teachers and staff are the ones improving student outcomes, and it's happening while we have a master agreement. While the agreement has required employees to be part of the conversation about innovation, it has not stopped innovation schools or waivers for innovation within existing schools. So I believe that academic improvement, nimbleness, innovation are all achievable with an agreement and teacher collaboration and other staff collaboration. I also believe that a positive culture for staff makes for a great learning environment for our students. So I'm here to support students, and teachers are here to support students. So if a contract supports them and feeling secure to help our students, then I'm listening. And I believe that we all claim, and I believe many of us honestly feel, that we want to invest in our staff, and we want invested staff. But I don't think ending this contract is a helpful or constructive way of showing that. So I will be voting no on this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Carey.
Thank you, President Mel Packham. I'd like to take a moment to just try to explain where my head is at, and then also hopefully close with some words of reassurance. I want to start by reading from the very beginning of the master agreement. This agreement is made and entered into by and between the Board of Education of Colorado Springs, District 11 in the County of El Paso County in the state of Colorado. That would be us, hereinafter called the board, and the Colorado Springs Education Association, a Colorado corporation, not-for-profit, hereinafter called the association, on behalf of itself and the teachers of the district. I think one of the central points of dispute here is kind of a conflation between teachers and the corporation that is the teachers union. And I'll get to this piece a little bit later, but I really want to emphasize, at least in my mind, the point of dispute here is a contract with a corporation. That's what the master agreement is. It's a signed contract between your public elected officials and a not-for-profit corporation. And it's not required to have a collective bargaining agreement of this nature. There is no state or federal statute that requires us to sign a contract like this. As several board members have mentioned, we are the only district in the county that has an agreement of this nature. Every other district handles questions of employee compensation or working conditions or what have you with an employee handbook that, again, as others have mentioned, treats all staff equally and equitably. And the point that I would want to make here is questions of authority, responsibility, and accountability have to be linked in any well-functioning system, especially in any public system. And we, as your elected board members, we are held accountable in the form of elections. Those are run every other year. There will be another one in less than a year from now, which is a little bit frightening in some ways. CSEA, again, as a corporation, is not accountable to the public. There is no mechanism for holding CSEA accountable to the public. There is no mechanism for the voters weighing in on whether they approve of what CSEA is doing or the direction in which CSEA wants to go. The only signal that voters can send is in the ballot box. And in the most recent election, every CSEA-endorsed candidate lost. My view, therefore, is it's simply not appropriate to sign a contract with a corporation that signs over taxpayer resources and decision-making authority. And to the question of can we fix this in negotiations, I would say we tried this already. Last year, one of our 2 negotiated issues was the question of CSEA use of taxpayer resources, and we got stonewalled. We didn't get anywhere. The purpose of this decision is to return authority in the public system to the elected officials. That's supportive of a public institution, to my mind. Now, the second half of what I want to say here, and the superintendent says this on average a handful of times every single board meeting, the number one way to student achievement is access to high-quality instruction. A majority of this board are current or former teachers. We know what it means when we say high-quality instruction. What that means is access to good teachers, access to teachers who come to a district in the hopes of good pay, good working conditions, making a difference in the lives of students. Teachers who have professional development that helps, achieve the next level of their game, that helps them do the best they can for students. We know full well that an excellent working environment is a precondition, a necessary precondition to high quality instruction. The majority of the board are teachers. We understand this very well. And so to echo what Vice President Hafley said at the beginning of her comments, this board is going to protect planning time. It's going to protect questions of salary, benefits, retirement, leave, duty-free lunch. We want our teachers to have an excellent working environment. We're teachers ourselves. My judgment, though, is that the master agreement is not the correct mechanism for ensuring that. And I will be voting to allow the master agreement to expire so that we can move to what every other district in this county does and return the questions of authority to those in the system who are actually accountable to the voting public.
Thank you. Any further comments or feedback from the board before I wrap it up and call for a vote on this issue? I don't see any other board members talking, so I will wrap it up with my comments. I appreciate the spirited and diverse opinions shared by all our board members. And speaking for the board, all of us fully understand the gravity of the subject matter that is being discussed, and that there are people that are passionate and emotional about this topic that is being discussed on both sides of this issue. And as you saw, every board member entered into this discussion this evening with utmost seriousness. I know that board members, this has been weighing on several board members, and personally, this topic has been weighing on my mind heavily for the past several weeks. So much so, it starts taking a toll after a while, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Leading up to today, it's been a stressful several weeks, and today is certainly a challenging day. And I want to acknowledge that when I was sworn in to serve in this nonpartisan capacity, which Director Art mentioned on the school board, my promise was always to listen respectfully to all perspectives without bias or preconceived agenda, weigh the various options objectively, and arrive at decisions that are always in the best interest of our students. For people that know me, you know that students come first for me. Improving student outcomes, as captured on the board priorities banner to my right, that is the North Star for this board and for me. Every decision, however challenging, must be looked through that lens. And by prioritizing a workplace culture that puts students first, we will take care of the adults in the system, our teachers, our staff. They go hand in hand. When students thrive, teachers benefit. Last week, I shared with the community during my board member report the current upward trajectory of the district and the successes we have achieved over the last couple of years, thanks to our incredible staff, most importantly, our teachers. I encourage you to please check out that report if you have not already done so. Even though we have achieved unprecedented academic growth and accomplishment in the past couple of years, we have roughly 65% of our students that are not yet at grade level proficiency. That is alarming and frankly unacceptable. For us to continue to be relevant and to be the destination of choice in Colorado Springs, we must be nimble, we must be innovative, and we must prioritize teaching and learning. Our singular mission is to educate our students and prepare them for future success. Our future vision is a thriving school district rooted in excellence. Every child that enters through our school doors matter. It is our moral obligation and shared responsibility to set that child up for success. And that job does not stop tomorrow because of adult conflicts. I want to take a couple of minutes and speak to the teachers in the audience and in our community. This past week, I had the opportunity to attend the Professional Development Conference for school board members. One of the keynote speakers at that conference compared teachers to first responders. And I wholeheartedly agree, especially in public schools. Just like first responders, teachers never know what situation you are going to encounter when you arrive at your jobs. Students are going to show up at school tomorrow with their own set of problems and needs. Some of them looking at you as their one constant source of support. The one adult in their life that they can trust. Thank you for caring, supporting, teaching, and lifting our students up day in and day out. Personally, I am what I am today because of the teachers in my life. I have shared my story with people in the community. I grew up in poverty, where my family struggled to put food on the table. Public education and teachers, albeit in a different country, is what opened doors, and where I am today is because of the teachers. I have the utmost respect for teachers. Just about everyone in this room can fondly look back to a teacher that made a difference in our lives. And without that influence, our lives would look very different. So I want to communicate to our teachers that you are valued, you are respected, and you form the backbone of District 11. Irrespective of what is decided this evening, you already heard the assurance from several board members. The current teacher salary schedule, benefits, leaves, stipend, working condition, plan time, professional development and training, post-employment benefits will remain in place. And if anything, we will strive to improve it and make it better. This board will continue to provide staff with the best working condition and the most competitive compensation and benefits package in the Pikes Peak region. We are committed to instruction in the classroom and investing money as close to students as possible. Some concern was expressed earlier today about teacher voice. It is critical, and it will continue to guide decision-making going forward. As you heard, this board has several teachers on it. It is pro-staff. It is pro-teacher. And most importantly, we are pro-student. You don't have to take my word for it. Just look at our track record over the past 3 years. The last 3 years have seen the highest pay increases in the history of District 11. We have provided robust healthcare benefits, and that was introduced by the board. The classroom support that Director Hafley already talked about, prohibiting cell phone use in our classrooms. It was after teacher feedback that the board responded quickly and swiftly. preserving teaching positions last year while making cuts at central administration for the tune of $4.5 million. And for our students, academic choice, apprenticeship, internship opportunities for our students, Pikes Peak Promise Scholarship, and I can go on and on. All that has transpired over the past 3 years, and our track record speaks for itself. And that is going to continue going forward. I've always said, hold me and hold this board accountable to ensure we deliver for our teachers, staff, and most importantly, students. Hold us accountable. And there is a democratic process in place to hold elected officials accountable if we do not deliver on our promises. Looking ahead, our goal is to improve academic outcomes for our students. Our destination is excellence, and we will continue to support our teachers and pay teachers more to address the teacher shortages and staff hard-to-fill position. The goal is to create a workplace culture grounded in trust and opportunity. I heard Director Art mention that there is a culture of fear. And I understand that. I have been in your classrooms. I have talked to you. And I fully understand that right now that there is a gap in trust. And the only way to bridge that gap is so that we communicate with each other. I'm proud of our collective accomplishments over the past couple of years, and we are just beginning. But we must continue to put students first. The future for District 11 is bright. The trajectory that we are moving towards is upwards. And I talked about that gap in trust. When there is a gap in trust, it is natural for us to fear the worst and believe the worst. Rumors and speculation start filling those gaps. And civility and sound judgment sometimes takes a back seat. I cannot promise that I will be able to close that trust gap, but what I can promise you is my time. I'm available. I'm available to listen, to engage, and connect with you. I cannot remember refusing an offer to meet or visit with a D11 stakeholder in my term on the board. I'm sure every other board member would be available to engage with you as well and to listen to the feedback and concerns that you bring to the table. We may agree, we may disagree, but I can promise you that it will be a civil and respectful discourse rooted in facts. So please reach out to us directly and let us work together for a brighter future for our students. Our students deserve nothing less. That's my end of comments, and with no further comments from the board members, there is a motion on the floor, and I'm going to call roll call on that motion that is on the floor. And I'll read the motion again. The motion that was read by Vice President Hafley was, I move that pursuant to Article 19 of the Master Agreement with the Colorado Springs School District 11, the Board of Education not extend the Master Agreement beyond the June 30, 2025 expiration date. And that motion was moved and seconded. Ms. Olson, roll call.
Director Vegas?
Aye.
Director Carey?
Aye.
Director Hafley?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Nay.
The motion passes. And staff and community, you will receive communication from the board and Superintendent Gall in the next 24 hours. Thank you for being here, and I will take a minute for the people in the audience to disperse. Okay, thank you. So you will receive clear communication from the board and Superintendent Gall in the next 24 hours, the follow-up, the next steps, and I will again reiterate what one of the school board directors said up here from the dais. CSEA will still be a presence in School District 11. They will be invited to be present at the table as we figure out the next steps. Superintendent Gall, you heard the board members talk about the need to pursue next steps. That would be to pursue an employee handbook. So if you can put a team together and get that process and the calendar and the schedule worked out, the next steps regarding that. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So there is a second item on the agenda. Director Nelson, can you please make the motion for action item B2, guest teacher compensation?
I move that the Board of Education authorize the superintendent through and including June 30th, 2025, to increase the daily pay rate for guest teachers and guest special service providers up to an amount equal to double their current daily pay rate, if, in his discretion, he deems it necessary to cover teacher and special service provider shortages.
Second.
So moved and seconded. This motion provides Superintendent Gall and the district administration the ability to do what is required to ensure that there is no interruption to the student learning environment. Board members, any thoughts or discussion on this before I call for a roll call? Okay. No discussion. Superintendent Gall, and to the community, tomorrow kids will show up to schools, okay? And we want to make sure that the disagreement or the conflict between adults do not impact student learning in the classroom. And Superintendent Gall, the directive from the board is to ensure that the interruption to the learning environment is not happening, and make sure that our student learning takes place as expected. And this provision will provide you the necessary support to ensure that that is happening in our schools. I will turn it over to you to see if you have any thoughts.
We'll do everything we can as we've been planning to ensure that our schools remain open. I do have some comments after the vote on this motion that I'd like to end with.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Director Bankus?
Aye.
Director Carey?
Aye.
Director Hafley?
Aye.
Director Jorgensen?
Aye.
Director Malpacum?
Aye.
Director Nelson?
Aye.
Director Ott?
Aye.
The ayes have it. The motion that was on the floor was approved by the board. Superintendent Gall, over to you for some comments.
Yeah, to our board, to our community, to our staff, and most importantly, to our students. The Colorado Springs School District 11 is prepared to develop an employee handbook as directed this evening by the Board of Education. We will present the board a project plan of that handbook on January 15th work session. The handbook will offer all staff the supports they need to ensure we continue to deliver on the shared vision. The number one way to student achievement is access to high-quality instruction. We are a learned institution. Instruction is singularly paramount to what we do for our students. Every ounce of our shared vision and purpose will and must remain on students. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments on this. So again, to our community, I want to assure you that student learning is our top priority. And we will ensure, as we go through this process over the next several weeks and months, that teacher voice and CSEA is also at the table in developing that employee handbook. Seeing no further business, if there are no objections, this meeting will adjourn at 6:34 p.m.